Hello everyone, welcome back to my workshop, and today I want to take you on a little bit of a journey with me through my workshop on creating something that was inspired on a recent visit I had while on a work trip up in northern Minnesota. I had the advantage of being able to take some time to stop by the International Wolf Center up in Ely, Minnesota. And as someone who's been fascinated with wolves my whole life, as a young kid, I remember reading books and writing quick reports in grade school about wolves and what they mean to our ecosystem. And so the visit and my past interest in wolves had just really inspired me to make kind of a piece of wall art to remind me of that connection to both my home state of Minnesota and our connection with the gray wolf. And I hope you don't mind. I'm going to throw in a little bit of education about wolves. They have been on and off the endangered species list, and they are still very much a threatened species here in the United States. And it's something we should all take consideration about with all of our animals and what their effect on the ecosystem. So please indulge me as I share this project and the process, as well as a few interesting tidbits about wolves. So without any further introduction, let's jump into the project. So I'm going to start by cutting off a piece of this rough sawn walnut that was sourced here in Minnesota, and I'm just using a cordless circular saw and a little bit of elevation to make this rough cut. Now off camera, I built up this little planer sled, and that's just going to keep the whole board flat while I run it through the planer to make sure that the top side gets smoothed out. And then you'll see I've taken it off the sled, and I'm going to lower it down to where it's just touching that and run this side through until it's smooth as well. And there you have it. We have two smooth and parallel sides. Now I'm going to need about 1/4 inch material, so I'm going to take this piece of walnut that's roughly 3/4 inch. I'm going to cut it in half on the bandsaw. This is called resawing, so I've got it jigged up and running it through nice and slowly. And on the back end I will grab it and use a push stick to complete the cut. And then it's back to the planer to smooth down that resawed edge, referencing the smooth side we left on the outside of each piece. And then it's basically rinse and repeat. I'm using some cherry. I'm going to resaw this down so that I can glue the two panels together to create one bigger piece to make my backer for the project. And of course, back to the planer to smooth these two out and make them a nice and equal thickness and smooth on both sides. Now I need to glue this up into one big panel because I need a bigger piece than these are having. So I'm using a tape trick where you tape down the seam on one side, you put the tape just along the edge, and then we're going to put some glue in the center, make sure it's nice and even. Then I will weight it down, clamp it down, and let that dry. Once the glue is cured, we can go ahead and take our clamps off, take our weight off, remove the tape on both sides, and then we're going to take a 6-inch random orbit sander and just smooth out that seam for any squeeze out of the dried glue. And there you can see a nice clean seam on both front and back sides. Now, this step isn't completely necessary, but I like to just square up and trim up my pieces before I throw them in the laser, just make sure to get my dimensions correctly. And we're going to cut down this cherry piece to a more appropriate size. All right, really quickly, I thought I would show you what I've got set up in Lightburn. So I'm going to be doing basically 3 different cuts. We've got the blue, which is going to be just the outline of Minnesota, and that's going to be the elm wood that I milled down as our backer. And then out of one of the pieces of walnut, I'm going to cut kind of a border of the state. This is going to be roughly 6 millimeters, so 1/4 inch, give or take, for the outline. And then also having the name Minnesota in on the bottom. And then up here in the black is a wolf howling with some pine trees cut out. That is also going to be cut out of walnut. So
I'm going to then position and glue them together, maybe throw some spray on finish. So I'll work out the speed and power settings and try to overlay them on the video as I need to do just some real brief testing on each piece just to kind of dial in where I need to be. But I'll make sure I include that as well. So let's head out to the shop and throw this at the laser, and we'll then put it all together.
So I did use a couple of scrap offcuts from each style. This is the walnut, this is the cherry, and ran some speed power tests on these just to be sure. And here you see the first one on the cherry. I was getting through one pass at 350 millimeters a minute, 100% power down to 80% power. So I ran it again. I did from 325 to 475, but noticed a discrepancy. Now this lighter color, that's sapwood, so I wanted to make sure I reran it up here into the heartwood, which is what I was going to be cutting the back out of. And again, we did inch it up into 375 and 100% power, 325 at 80, 90, and 100. So I think I'm going to run the cherry at about 325 to 350 millimeters a minute, single pass to get through that. And then here in the walnut, you notice it wasn't quite as fast. I was getting through at 200, a single pass, 100% power, but 150 millimeters a minute, 80, 90, and 100. So I'm going to go with the 150 just to be on the safe side. I've got a lot of fine detail in that wolf with the pine trees. I don't want to be having to have any sort of areas where it doesn't get through. So those are the speeds we're going to use. We'll get those thrown into the laser and get all those parts cut out.
In the not-so-distant past, the haunting howls of gray wolves used to resonate through the dense forests and vast plains of the United States. These magnificent creatures once roamed freely, commanding respect as apex predators and playing a crucial role in maintaining ecological balance. However, as European settlers expanded westward, the wolves became victims of fear and misunderstanding, resulting in a dark period of relentless persecution. By the mid-20th century, the gray wolf population in the United States had plummeted to near extinction. Trapping, shooting, and poisoning campaigns left only a few remnant populations clinging to existence in remote regions, particularly in northern Minnesota, where they found a last refuge. As the wolves faced the threat of extinction, a deep void was left in the ecosystem they once harmoniously inhabited. Unchecked herbivore populations began to spiral out of control, leading to detrimental effects on plant life and other wildlife. The disappearance of these apex predators caused a ripple effect that reverberated through the natural world. Recognizing the grave threat of losing such a vital part of this country's natural heritage, a group of passionate conservationists and biologists established the International Wolf Center in Ely, Minnesota. Their vision was not only to save the gray wolves, but to also educate the public about the importance of these apex predators to the ecosystem. In the early days, the International Wolf Center primarily focused on research and captive breeding programs to safeguard the few remaining wolf populations. They closely collaborated with other conservation organizations and governmental bodies to ensure the wolves received legal protection and were reintroduced to suitable habitats. The center's outreach extended beyond Minnesota's borders through media campaigns, documentaries, and educational materials, dispelling myths and fostering empathy for the gray wolves. As the public perception changed, so did the political climate, leading to increased protections and conservation efforts for these magnificent creatures. Over the years, the gray wolf population slowly began to rebound. The forests of Minnesota once again echoed with their soul-stirring howls of these majestic animals. As the wolves' numbers grew, they began to expand their territories, spreading hope to neighboring states that had lost their entire wolf populations. The success of the gray wolf's recovery can be attributed to no small part to the International Wolf Center's unwavering dedication to conservation and education. By bridging the gap between humans and wolves, they managed to instill a sense of responsibility and coexistence, ensuring that future generations would grow up with respect for these remarkable creatures and the fragile ecosystems they inhabit.
Okay, so we have our three parts cut out. We have our base made from the cherry panel we glued up. We have our outline out of one of the sheets of walnut, and then we have our wolf with the pine tree cut out on the bottom. And so this is going to be a layered effect. We're going to glue this frame onto the outside to give us our nice border and our contrast, and then we will position this in up here approximately like so, and glue that down as well. Once that's done, we'll talk about finishing. All right, so to glue this up, I'm going to go ahead and use Starbond CA, and what I'm doing is just going all along the edge and the letters of this, adding just enough glue to help stick it down, and then I'm going to work around in the corners, just getting it tacked into place, making sure it's lined up, letting that accelerator do its work to kind of tack the pieces in as I work around the whole edge. Now, since the wolf's head is a little bit larger, I'm going to use a mixture of wood glue, which will do the majority of the holding in the long term, but I also don't want a lot of squeeze out, so on the smaller pieces in the edge, I'm going to go ahead and use some CA glue. This will both help seal down those small parts, as well as act as a clamp. So a little bit of accelerator, push and hold, and we're good to go. Now, signing your work is always important, so back in the laser to throw the workshop logo on. Now, I made these laser cut hangers in another video, so I'll have a link down below that, but we're going to go ahead and glue this on right in the middle. Make sure it balances in that spot, a little CA, a little accelerator, and it's good to go. Now, my finish of choice, I want to use a spray-on, so I'm using this clear lacquer. I want to make sure you use this outdoors or in a well-ventilated area, but we're going to give it a coat on the back, flip it over, give a few coats, and then we'll come back, do this about 3 more times, and that'll be it. And so here we are with the finished wall sign. The spray-on lacquer, while more of a matte finish, did come out a little glossier than I hoped, but I think in the right room it's not going to be too shiny, but I am going to definitely appreciate this. I love the look of the 2 woods, walnut and cherry, that were sourced here in Minnesota, and using one of my little hangers there, I'm going to definitely get this up on the wall, either here at home or at my office at work. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'll have links down below to a variety of the things used in the making of this piece. The xTool laser is great for doing projects like this. I will have a link down below. Using that may get you a nice little discount off it as well. So if you're interested in being able to make these yourself, check out that link below, as well as some other items I find useful through Amazon and other places. They will be affiliate links, and they do go help this channel out as well. In addition to that, I will have a link to the International Wolf Center if you'd like to find out more about wolves and their conservation efforts up in Ely, Minnesota. It's a great organization that has been doing a lot to help the wolf population around the United States, and especially here in Minnesota, it's making a great comeback. So I hope to see continued efforts there. All right, I will wrap it up there, but thanks again for stopping by and checking out this video. If you did like it, go ahead, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, do all the things because it does help this channel, and I hope to see you back again soon. But in the meantime, I hope you get out into your workshop and make something too. We'll catch you next time.